Well, happy Monday morning to everybody. This is Stephen Aquario with the State Association of Counties, and it's a pleasure to be with you here this morning to talk about solar energy. A new model for community solar is today's feature discussion. And, it is a refreshing break from the work that we have been doing, the traditional work of facing the pandemic, where all resources of the government apparatus has been routed to address the pandemic in every department. But good news is here, as today the first shipments of the vaccine to address this great pandemic are being distributed to the states for our frontline workers and healthcare workers. So let's hope that this administration of this vaccine really brings about a cure to get us back to where we need to be as a society and focus on important things like the environment, which is why we chose this topic here today. The Association of Counties has dedicated itself towards environmental initiatives. We have a resiliency standing committee that was chaired for quite a while by the Erie County Executive, Mark Polenkars. It's now chaired by the Tompkins County legislator, Martha Robertson. And we dedicate a lot of our time and resources towards addressing the needs of the community, the needs of the locality, and the needs certainly of the state and the nation. We try to distribute information around from the different sources of those levels of government and from the community level. How can we best address some of the goals of the state? How can we best address limiting statewide greenhouse gas emissions by 40% off the 1990 level in just 9 years, and 85% of greenhouse gas emissions by 2050? A plan to achieve net zero greenhouse gases emissions across New York State's economy. How do we reduce or have renewable energy, electricity goal of 70% by 2030 and 100% zero emission electricity by 2040. These are challenging goals. Some counties like Ulster and Tompkins, Erie have taken initiative upon their own to try to achieve some of these goals. Others are in the process of it as well, or somewhere in between. Again, very distracted by the pandemic, very distracted by the economic conditions of the community and the county and revenue disruptions, which is another reason why the federal government and the federal stimulus programs and the federal stimulus funds are critical. They're critical to help restore public health response. They're critical to help restore the economy. They're critical to help restore our private sector partners that serve our people on Main Street and in our rural areas of New York State. So we will be focusing a great deal as we go forward with the Congress to try to get an infrastructure package agreed to as part of these stimulus negotiations. We will be, of course, advocating for green energy, for clean energy programs and services, and partnering with the state, both at the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, the New York State Public Service Commission, and the New York State Energy and Resource Development Agency, NYSERDA, to help promote programs and bring new ideas and concepts to the counties. Climate or community smart agreements, or Alexandra will go over a few things of the different programs in the New York State NYSERDA programs and the New York State DEC. I can't even pronounce them. I get so confused. There's a lot of confusion out there with programs, climate smart communities, all these different programs coming through the state agency, NYSERDA, and other programs. There's lots of grant opportunities that are out there. So one of the primary purposes today was to just pull one of those programs out and focus on it and talk to them about it and share what we've learned with working with Solstice about what's out there. How can we best have our residents have an opportunity to use renewable energy? If the state's goal is to be 70% renewable electricity by 9 years from now, it's going to take a village to get that done. It's going to take a city to get that done. It's going to take a county to get that done. And it's going to take a town to get that done. It's just not something that gets done at the state level. That's something the state of New York declares, but others have to do it. And we have to do it through our behavior. I'll say one thing. When I get something in the mail from a particular company or a particular vendor, I tend to throw it out. Why? I'm afraid. I get scared that it's just another scam. And I worry about participating in something and providing my account information to, or providing phone numbers or any personal detail at all with something that I just generally would get in the mail. But if I have something that come in that has been vetted by a governmental entity, that's a different story. And if a town or a village or a county is promoting a particular program, now I might look twice at that and say, well, what are they up to here? What's in it for me as a resident, and what's in it for the public at large, and what's in it for society at large? And does it make sense? And I think it does make sense. And I think most people want to do the right thing by the environment. Most people want to get off reduce greenhouse gas emissions and what's called fossil fuel. We just don't know how to do it. And if there is a path forward, it is through programs like the one we're going to talk about today. It doesn't have to be the program that you may use in your particular community. We encourage local governments to use any solar developer or solar provider that may be in your community. We are talking with Solstice today about some of the great work that they've done and some of the great work that they want to do around the state in certain areas of the state. But by no means are they the sole provider of these types of solar development programs. So with that said, I encourage all of you that are on this webinar to continue to watch the association. We're going to be promoting a number of renewable energy type of programs and services. It's in all of our collective best interest to try to engage the public, to give them access, to give those in underserved areas of the state, those who are living in poverty, a chance to participate in renewable energy. And not just those who have the means, but all people should have the access to convert their electricity to renewable. And again, another major push by the association to try to include all areas of the state, both rural and urban. So I'm very pleased that the team from Solstice has agreed to do this webinar with us. We're very grateful for the work of Governor Andrew M. Cuomo and all his efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and the state agencies that are under his jurisdiction. With that said, I'll recognize Alexandra Lamont for further introductions of our panelists today. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Stephen. My name is Alex Lamont, and I am a Legislative and Policy Coordinator for the Association of Counties. As Stephen said, today we're focused on one of the community solar programs that's available to your local government. Solstice's program allows households to subscribe to a nearby solar farm. In exchange, they get clean energy credits without any hassle, extra costs, or installations on their property. This morning, we'll hear directly from Solstice about how your local government can help residents to receive guaranteed savings on their electricity bill, and you at the same time can achieve your own climate smart and community clean energy community goals. We're happy to be joined by two guests this morning, Taro Gold and Alex Goldfarb. Taro Gold is Solstice's Director of Outreach. He leads the company's sales and community outreach efforts for its solar farm portfolio across the nation. Taro has over 8 years of experience building relationships and partnerships at both large corporations and startups. He and his team take a community-oriented educational approach to customer acquisition by forming partnerships with municipalities, organizations, and businesses in order to further the impact of their work and carry out their mission to bring solar to every American. Alex Goldfarb is a partnerships coordinator with Solstice. He leads the company's municipal partnerships and solarized campaigns across New York State. Alex uses his experiences in management consulting as a founder of social enterprises and nonprofit organizations to help further Solstice's mission to again bring solar to every American. He helped develop the company's solarized outreach process to enable municipalities and counties to run smooth campaigns to help folks save money and support renewable energy with community solar. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question panel on your webinar dashboard and we'll take them up at the end. You'll be able to find a recording of this webinar and a copy of the slide deck on our website later today at nisac.org/webinars. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Taro and Alex. Thank you both so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for the lovely introductions, Alex, and thank you, Stephen. I actually want to echo some of what Stephen's comments were, that for Solstice, we view community solar and renewable energy work as a whole as being a means of providing both environmental benefits, but also financial benefits to people in the state. New York is one of the fastest growing renewable energy markets in the country. There's over 10,000 people who are employed in the solar industry in New York. And so as we're thinking about the world in 2021, we hope renewable energy can be a big part of New York's recovery from the pandemic. So as you can see, the price of solar is going down. Over the past 20 years, since PV has become a prominent form of energy in America, we've reached a point now where solar is one of the cheapest options available for electricity. In 2019 alone, the state of New York installed 500 megawatts of solar, which was adding 50% to its existing capacity. Of course, as Stephen mentioned, there are environmental and policy levers that have to do with this growth. People want to reduce the emissions in the state. There have been a variety of pieces of legislation that are pushing the state towards that goal, but I would argue that first and foremost, solar energy is just becoming cheaper. We've seen that from the largest scale solar installations, where you've seen bids that have come in incredibly low, below 2 cents per kilowatt hour, not in the state of New York, but in other projects across the US, all the way down to your smallest residential installation. So from someone putting a few panels on their roof all the way to these really large utility scale installations, the price of solar coming down has made it so that it's one of the best opportunities for folks to get involved in renewable energy, to save money for utilities and for residents, and for municipalities and counties and communities to be able to participate in the future of renewable energy. New York is actually projected to be the state with the 4th most installed capacity over the next 5 years. So in the variety of forms that it takes, New York is going to be participating in solar energy's growth across America. If we go to the next slide. Now, all of that is wonderful, that there are all these opportunities for folks to benefit from the reduced cost of renewable energy, but not everybody has that chance. For example, my aunt lives in Old Chatham, New York, and she has these gorgeous trees that are surrounding her house. There's really no way for her to put panels on her roof. The way that the direction of the sun is facing makes it so that she can't get to enjoy the benefits of residential solar. This is the case also for people who don't necessarily have the credit scores or the necessary savings to be able to invest in residential solar for themselves. It applies to nonprofits who are not able to get the tax benefits of the larger installations they would need for office buildings or other side, non-residential installations. And so, all in all, despite the fact that solar is getting cheaper and is growing rapidly in the state of New York and across the country, 70% of US homes are unable to access solar. Obviously, if we're going to make it, as Stephen said, so that we can reach some of these really lofty goals we have for the state of New York around reduction in climate issues, we're going to need to figure out a variety of mechanisms for people to access solar. And it's not going to be the same for everybody. And so community solar is one of the options for people who don't fit into the standard boxes of how solar gets to people. Let's go to the next slide.
So for all these people, the nearly 80% of New Yorkers that cannot put solar on their own roof for some of the reasons, for all the reasons really that Alex displayed, we offer something called community solar. Community solar means you don't have to be installing anything on your property or your roof. You can claim a portion of a shared solar farm and switch to solar that way. By choosing to support a local community solar farm, New Yorkers are able to do their part in shifting our energy landscape away from fossil fuels, in addition to taking advantage of the economic and community benefits that come from this model specifically. Jeanette, next slide, please. So what is community solar? Solstice Community Solar is a subscription model first, so you're not paying anything up front and nothing changes on your property again, as the solar farms are built off-site. There are really no downsides, as you're paying nothing to join. There are no cancellation costs either, and you just pay as you go. Because of the price of utility scale solar and how that's come down, as Alex mentioned, and the state incentives in New York especially, the electricity produced by the solar farm can be sold at a 10% discount compared to the rate of electricity offered by our utility. Since our subscription model is offered as a fixed discount instead of a fixed locked-in rate, you will always save 10% off of your utility's price, regardless of what happens to the price of electricity in the future. You can skip ahead, Jeanette, one more. So how does this work? Oh, sorry, excuse me, back one. We'll briefly go over how this works. Jeanette, one more click, I think, backwards. There we go. We'll go over this quickly. So the first step for everyone who's interested in joining a solar farm is to figure out how many panels within the solar farm will produce the same amount of energy that people consume in their home over a year's time. And once we have the solar farm fully subscribed and every panel really accounted for, and it turns on, the electricity produced is fed right into the electric grid, like any other energy source. And with no changes to your home or apartment, you still receive electricity the same way you always have from your utility. We track how much electricity your panels produce on a monthly basis, and you just pay for that power at the reduced rate, that 10% discounted rate. And in return, you see a credit show up on your monthly utility bill for the solar energy you're enjoying virtually. Next slide, Jeanette.
So given the amount of programs available, Stephen actually hit this right on the head, that there is more mail going out to New Yorkers about their energy bill than I think most folks can handle. Between energy supply companies and CCAs and all these different clean energy, climate smart programs, it can get pretty difficult to determine what is real and what is just something that you don't need to worry about. And what we've come to realize through our work at Solstice is that folks sign up for solar because their friends do. And when people are able to participate in community solar as a community, they recognize the benefits and don't have the same concerns that they would about something that they had just heard about for the first time. When it comes through a trusted source, in our case, be it nonprofit organizations we work with, municipalities or counties, through an employer, this sort of network effect is really the best way to get people interested in community solar and to trust that these 10% savings they're receiving are real. There's been all sorts of studies that show this, but it's also a little bit of just common sense that when you see something that comes from a trusted source, you can believe that this is a program that's worth getting involved in yourself. This is the way that we've tried to build out our community solar farms in New York. And we've seen in particular that towns and municipalities and counties are actually some of the most trusted sources for people. And some of our most successful partnership programs therefore come through town partnerships. If we go to the next slide, we can show a little bit about how that works. Some of you may have heard about the Clean Energy Communities program, was mentioned earlier. NYSERDA offers grant funding to towns, municipalities, and counties which participate by performing any of 10 high impact action items. Now, some of these are really simple, like installing LED lights in town hall, and some of them are really complicated, like rewriting the entirety of the municipality's code when it comes to making installations for any sort of infrastructure. Solarized programs, which is what we're talking about here, I would say falls towards the simpler side of these 10 action items. Through a partnership with an organization like Solstice, we help towns and counties share information about community solar with their residents. By doing so, people who sign up can count towards a goal that the town or county sets. 10 people signing up is the minimum to reach this NYSERDA high impact action item. And in all of our partnerships that we've had, 10 has been a really, really easy part of the goal. We usually set it quite a bit higher. So in terms of reaching the NYSERDA stated goal, there is some grant funding at the end of that road that's really quite achievable. We also use the opportunity of working with the town board to connect with other community organizations to spread the word. So as you can kind of see in this little nice circle at the bottom, between Solstice, the town or county board, community organizations, we're bringing people together to the solar farm that's being subscribed to in the relevant utility that your town is in. The steps are pretty straightforward. We've actually received various, NYSERDA provides a wide variety of templates so that you don't have to create a new resolution every time. There's a pretty standard resolution for towns and counties, which shows their interest in supporting the project. We've also been fortunate to see how to fill out all these different NYSERDA forms so that it's not somebody from your town having to figure out how to fill out each line of these very detailed forms correctly. And we work directly with whoever the liaison from the town or county is to provide updates and progress and to plan any of the events that we decide to do to share the word about this Solarize program in town. We could go to the next slide. I'm not sure if Art is on today, but I hope he doesn't mind that we used a pretty picture of the Ankrum Town Hall. We did, and with the process, again, as discussed, there's a resolution. If your town has already done some of these climate smart or clean energy community programs, you may have a committee already existing in town that's a really great partner to work with. Regardless, there is going to be someone from the town or county who is like the point person to be working with Solstice on developing the events and sharing the information and reporting back to the town or county board. And we do our best to get to know the people that we work with. We really believe that community solar needs to be just that, needs to be a community program. And so we work with our liaison to come up with a list of these are the movers and shakers, these are the organizations that people trust in town to partner with, to put on events, to share information, be it online or in person, depending on where the world takes us over the next year. We've been fortunate to see that even in a socially distanced world, we've been able to put on really exciting events to help people get interested and excited to join a solar farm. And once all this, the basic preliminary work has been done, Solstice takes care of the rest. So you can just sit back and watch the sign-ups roll in. Could we go to the next slide, please?
So the support we provide for campaigns can kind of be split into three main phases: the kickoff and awareness building, interest, and then enrollment and ongoing engagement for all the customers and residents that enroll. As Alex said, we utilize both digital and physical touch points to help you spread the word. We have a full marketing team to help create the messaging and collateral to make things as easy as possible for our partners and make sure it's just kind of low lift for you guys. We offer center and anchor campaigns around events to help provide people opportunities to meet us and learn more, and in formats similar to this even. And as folks become interested, they can learn more on their own too through your campaign's custom partnership page on our website that highlights your partnership with us and educates constituents on the program and even how to enroll. And they can even enroll on their own and join a solar farm. But for those less digitally inclined, we also offer excellent assistance over the phone, in person, after COVID or after vaccinations, hopefully, to help folks learn more, enroll, and of course, we have a dedicated customer support team once these solar farms turn on for that ongoing management and upkeep and personal touch. So in addition to the ongoing savings that everyone will realize each month going forward, everyone also goes home with a $100 cash sign-on bonus. It's kind of our way of creating that immediate gratification and excitement for joining our program, as sometimes there is a slight wait time from when you enroll and when a solar farm turns on. In addition to that, our partners, you, earn a $100 donation for every sign-up. We will help you create a fundraiser and start a donation pool in order to enhance the campaign messaging of why folks should do this and how it will not only benefit their own bill and the environment, but their own community too. So for instance, we're running a campaign with the town right now that's raising money to purchase solar powered motion lights for their town hall parking lot. So for every person that enrolls, Solstice is donating to this fundraiser. So we've raised money to purchase winter coats for elementary school students in a town, for local nonprofits, and we're able to support just about any fundraiser of your choice that fits your community's needs and what you think would be most appealing and impactful. We can move on. We'll showcase a couple of our partners. So who do we typically partner with? I think Alex kind of mentioned a few already. There's really quite a variety of, as we've helped local community groups like houses of worship and art societies, local nonprofits, environmental groups, educational institutions, and even companies run employee benefit enrollment campaigns. And of course, town-sponsored solarized campaigns, which we believe, along with counties, will become a larger portion of our work because of the mutual benefits and overall reach. There's a lovely quote here on the left-hand side from our friend John Riley, this town supervisor over in Gallatin. Not sure if he's on the line. Hello, if he is. And a few other of the municipalities we've partnered with, Ancrum again, Port Henry, Mariah, Warwick as well, listed here too. We'll skip ahead to the next slide, Jeanette, and just close with a few slides about Solstice. We are a women and people of color led and owned company, and quite frankly, the only in the industry. And it's this diverse background that chartered our mission back in 2015, which is to bring solar to every American. And to fulfill this mission, we actually are a hybrid organization. We have a for-profit and a nonprofit wing. Our nonprofit focuses specifically on expanding access to low-income Americans through several ways, including a critical financial innovation called the Energy Score, which proves out that you do not need a strong credit score to actually pay your utility bill. And in our case, 90% of your utility bill, which we're bringing to the market as a more accurate alternative qualifying metric to a traditional FICO credit score. Our for-profit, which we work for, works to expand the education of our programs like we're doing now, and utilizes a powerful software we've built to help enroll and maintain our growing customer base. We also believe strongly in putting the community in community solar, like we've stated, which is why our partnership program helps give back to communities and is pretty much front and center to how we go about our outreach. And it's this combination of human elements and touch points combined with this good, strong software that allows us to reach everyone, and that makes Solstice unique. And we'll carry on to the next slide, Jeanette, to wrap things up. So here on the left side, you'll see Steph and Sandy, our executives and founders, myself and Alex listed on the right. We were born out of MIT Sloan Business School back in 2015 and have since grown to 30 employees with reach and expertise across multiple states and geographies, and certainly no stranger to New York, as we've been working on projects, community solar projects across the state since 2017. I believe the first solar farm was built in 2016, so we've basically been in the game in New York since the beginning. So won't really bore you with any more of our resumes. I would really love to turn it over for questions and have more of a conversation and kind of answer what's most interesting to folks from here on out.
Great, thank you both so much. This is Alex Lamont again from the Association of Counties. We did get quite a few questions in. I want to start with a question for Taro. How does this differ from a community choice aggregation model?
Just taking myself off mute. Great question. So First and foremost, CCAs, community choice aggregation models, are bulk energy agreements for the supply only portion of people's utility bills. Utility bills, regardless of the utility, are made up of supply charges and delivery charges. Delivery charges being those always from your utility that cannot change. And in New York, you can choose where your supply comes from. So CCAs help aggregate a constituent base, can be a town. Most often in New York, it's been towns that have chosen to do this, coming together and negotiating a deal for the supply side of their bill. And typically this is an opt-out agreement where everyone in town is signed up and anyone can opt out if they'd like. Community solar is different in that, first off, they are not mutually exclusive. You can actually do both. Community solar and sort of the way the program works is that's administered as a credit onto your utility bill and will actually serve as a credit onto both the delivery and supply portions of your bill. So you can actually do both. Our program, at least to date, is opt-in. So this is why we partner with, again, these trusted entities and organizations and communities throughout New York to help build that trust and build that interest in education so folks can sign up and enroll themselves. Alex, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Taro nailed it.
Hope that answers the question. Happy to clarify anything further though.
Thank you. We had another question come in specifically for Alex. Can you talk about reinvesting the $100 back into the community? What kind of programs can the donation support?
Yeah, I think, so thus far, in terms of our partnerships with towns, we've mostly seen an effort to put it into an environmentally oriented project. Now, that is not an obligation or a requirement, but I think in terms of getting people to have a very to be able to have the program make the most sense, right? To make it seem the most logical, you say, sign up for community solar and we will donate to this environmental initiative for town, has a sort of resonance that people can work with just purely from a marketing standpoint and from like an outreach standpoint. However, the way that Solstice views this is that town leadership and county leadership is going to have the best ideas as to what it is that this money should be going towards. We, of course, want to be aware and involved in the planning process to help determine where this money is going, but we're very much proponents of the idea that a town board is going to have a better idea of what the town needs than we would. So we're very comfortable working with a variety of initiatives, be it, as Tara mentioned, through local nonprofits, through a town board exclusively. Environmental ones do seem to fit for people, and it makes a lot of sense to say that we're going to install this other project in town that reduces our emissions, but we're very comfortable with working with any number of different social services or community-based organizations that are providing value to folks in town.
The next question we received, does Solstice actually site and build the farms?
Great question. We actually do not. We are not a solar developer. We really sit in between solar developers that specialize in finding good land, going through the permitting process, and certainly the construction process and phase. A lot of these companies are not customer facing, nor do they want to be. And that's really where we can become this great intermediary where we can really meet the needs and demands of developers and match them with the right customer base that they need to find. And it's our software and our outreach expertise together that really work as sort of this broker in between to help individuals and organizations, communities find solar farms.
We received another related question, if you could just provide some clarity on this one. Does Solstice market for only Solstice operated community projects or any community solar install in the area?
We're contracted by developers. So again, we do not have our own solar farms to date. So we are happy to kind of lend our services in a number of ways. I think most commonly it is through acquisition and management of customers, but we also have, can use our services in a more of a consultation manner and framework too. Would just need to discuss that in more detail. Hope that answers the question.
I think it does. Thank you. Next question, which utility regions are you currently working in, and where will these community solar farms be located over the next 10 years?
Great question. So we currently have openings in National Grid territory, Orange and Rockland, and Central Hudson. We just filled up a portfolio of NYSEG, New York State Electric and Gas projects. And we intend to work in these regions into 2021, and hopefully by mid 2021 should have more of NYSEG as well, projects in the NYSEG area. Where will these projects be located? The ones we've worked on projects, first off, across the state in all 4 of these utilities. Alex, correct me if I'm missing any. And typically we will start working on a project and enrolling customers onto a solar farm once these projects have been permitted and construction on them has started. It's at that point that projects really don't turn back. There is very little likelihood of them not turning on. Therefore, that's when we come in and start to enroll people. So when we go out to communities and perform outreach and enroll folks, they will know which solar farm they're enrolling in.
The only thing I would add from Taro's comments is that what we're seeing in terms of growth in community solar development is that even some of the areas that were less likely to have it, which I would say were Con Edison and also Long Island, mostly because of the cost of land, to build a solar farm anywhere that Con Edison serves is going to be wildly expensive. Even there, we've started to see some projects coming online using a bit more creative techniques. So doing rooftop community solar farms or other mechanisms of, we've seen landfills and other ways of using land that is otherwise not useful or productive to be able to serve some of these areas where community solar was difficult to come by. So you're seeing growth across the state. I think in terms of which regions, I would say that it's pretty across the board. I think there's a lot in Western New York that happens to be like the fastest growing both utility scale and community solar markets, but you've seen growth everywhere from Orange County all the way to Erie. So it's pretty broad in terms of the growth.
We had 2 participants write in with follow-up questions to your mention of National Grid and NYSEG. The first one is, has NYSEG frowned upon interconnecting these farms to the grid? And the second question is, are all the National Grid areas downstate?
So as for the interconnection question, the nature of community solar is that it is connected to the grid. So when a community solar farm, when Taro is saying comes online, what that means is that the power begins to feed the grid. If you're a customer sitting at home who is subscribed to a solar farm, nothing has changed in terms of how electricity arrives at your house. You can't track an individual electron from the solar farm to someone's home. What's happening is these community solar farms are feeding, be it NYSEG, National Grid, any of these utilities. Community solar farms are inherently plugged into the grid. In terms of downstate with National Grid, there are some projects where you can work across the entirety of the National Grid utility load zones, and some that are specific to, you have to be in National Grid utility load zone C to access this project. That's dependent on the solar farm, and for most of our projects, they've been across those zones, but we've worked with projects that are pretty far upstate, so I don't think that there's like one area of the state that's seeing all of this development.
Next question, is Solstice compensated by the installer or the municipality?
The installer, the developers.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Can you speak to how your arrangements with municipalities address municipal procurement requirements in New York State?
So depending on each municipality's preferences and what their requirements are, we have gone through RFP processes with a number of different municipalities. I've been informed that because solarized programs are not necessarily, it's not the same as getting somebody to build, a building in town. Because you're providing a service of connecting folks to solar farms, it doesn't fall under all of the same requirements. However, RFPs are pretty standard. We've seen for solarized projects in many different municipalities. We're comfortable, we've consulted with folks who have informed us that it is not a requirement to do an RFP, but I would say, half or a little more than half of communities that go to do a solarized campaign go through an RFP process.
How many local governments and how many residents are you currently working with in New York State?
Tara, do you have the resident number?
So the resident number in New York is over 3,000 at this point. In terms of local governments, I want to say, Alex, I don't know if you have that. 4? I was going to say 4.
Yeah.
4.
Great. We have more questions coming in. The next one, can you walk us through the process if our local government wants to work with Solstice?
Yeah, so first of all, that would be wonderful. Second, what happens is, in general, folks who are interested in starting a solarized campaign would reach out to Taro or myself, either one of us, and depending on where you are in the state, other members of my partnerships team work in different utility areas, and so we would determine who is the best person to be your partnership coordinator. We also like to bring in the clean energy communities coordinators from the different regions of the state who have tons of expertise on how to follow the various NYSERDA guidelines. So we would set up an initial conversation where we detail what goes into a solarized project, who are the appropriate environmental organizations in town or community organizations to work with us. And then we would go through the process of drafting a resolution. We have a template that is pretty standard and that a few different towns and counties pass whenever they're going to do a solarized campaign. This resolution comes before a town board. After the resolution is passed, we would work with the appropriate liaison who's been determined, be it someone from an environmental group or someone from the town board, to build out a plan for the solarized campaign, fill out those NYSERDA documents and get things moving. But of course, it starts with just reaching out, saying hello, and then we can start planning.
Going back to the RFP process, we received another question related to this. In a solarized campaign, there are typically multiple vendors offering a similar service. Is it an option for Solstice to work alongside similar vendors?
Yeah, it would depend certainly on the vendors in question, but we've actually created partnerships with other solar companies, for instance, to run larger solarized campaigns that are educating the community about multiple different offerings. Again, our model is a subscription community solar model. There are certainly several other options, whether that's rooftop solar, ground mount solar, or even a purchase model of community solar. So absolutely an option.
Thank you. One of our participants noted that you've talked a lot about towns during this webinar. Can you talk more about how you work with counties?
Sure. So in full transparency, we have not had an official countywide solarized campaign or partnership yet. We're in discussions with a few. But what we have proven out, I think, is the success of municipal level partnerships, and have that process and structure in place where we now feel confident, and especially in speaking with NYSAC and a couple counties, and learning more ourselves about what counties can really provide to their constituents, the model, certainly in our eyes, we feel confident can apply across the board, which is why I think we were equally excited to come speak today.
Do customers sign up first and then you find a developer, or is it the other way around?
So developers contract with us at the point in which they have a solar farm that they're confident they're getting construction started. So we usually have a contract from a developer prior to signing anybody up. So when a customer is signing on the digital contract, I'm going to be a part of the solar farm. That solar farm is under construction. It's going to be up and ready. So nobody's signing a digital contract that's going to take them to nowhere. We like to have the solar farms identified and settled before we put anyone on them.
Is the credit on your monthly electricity bill always equal to 10% of the supply plus the delivery charge? Can you talk more about how the billing works?
Sure, happy to, and happy to follow up maybe with a billing explainer too. But essentially, the first step is figuring out the number of panels that each customer needs, and that number of panels, making sure that those panels produce the same amount of energy that the customer uses in their house over a year's time. And the reason we do it over an entire year is because everyone uses a different amount of energy each and every month. As well, the sun produces a different amount of electricity each month of the year too. With more sunlight in the summer months and the longer days, there's going to produce the solar farm is going to produce more energy in the summer and longer days and months than in the winter time. So month to month, the amount of credits that the solar farm will produce that we can then apply to your bill is going to fluctuate month to month. However, over a year's time, we're going to make sure that the number of credits that are applied to your utility bill matches just about the same amount of energy and amount of electricity you're paying for. So over a year's time, this balances out.
Thank you. Just a reminder for our participants, there is a questions panel on the GoToWebinar dashboard. You can type in any questions that haven't been addressed yet. We have two related questions next. The first is, what is the largest solar farm that you have gained subscriptions to? And is there a limit to the number of residents that my local government can sign up for the program?
So most solar farms in New York are just around 3 megawatts, which houses about 400 customers. I'm trying to jog my memory about the program. I believe recently there was an expansion for solar farms to for the size of solar farms to increase to 5 megawatts. But there is a cap on sort of the individual size of a single solar farm. Back in 2017, when we were just getting going in New York, we often were contracted and worked with a developer on a single solar farm that would house 400 customers, and we were brought in to kind of find those 400 customers. Fast forward to today and to 2020, we're operating in a market that's matured for 3 years, where we're often working, or almost exclusively now, working on portfolios of projects that developers have in New York that they are building in succession, one after the other, where we will, while the individual size of a solar farm hasn't really increased, we can continue our acquisition efforts for a longer period of time into a larger amount of residents and customers, because we have multiple projects to work on within the same area. Hope that answers the question. Alex, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
I would just add that as for any one individual town, there is no specific limit to one area in terms of how many people can sign up. There is a limit to how many people can be on any one solar farm. But as Tara described, in theory, if we were working with a town on a project, we said we're going to do a Solarize campaign, everyone's really excited and we fill the solar farm so quickly, there will always, for us in the areas that we're working, there will usually be another solar farm under construction that we could then move the project onto. So a solarized campaign wouldn't have to be tied to the specific solar farm. It could be that if it's wildly successful and 250 people have signed up just from one town, then we would have another solar farm under construction that we could continue registering people for.
Thank you. We'll take a few more questions before we wrap things up this morning. Going through the RFP process can be time consuming for a municipality. It was mentioned that other municipalities have used an RFP process. Is there a chance that there's piggybacking language in those RFPs that a different municipality can use? Or has Solstice considered working with a group like Mega, which can, sorry, I lost the language there, which can award an RFP by most municipalities without going through their own RFP?
So if memory serves, Mega is one of these other CCA administrators that I've run into as well. So that's interesting to think about in terms of making the RFP process easier. I will say that having filled out a few of them in terms of like submitting Solstice's proposal, looks like there's a template that folks are using that comes from NYSERDA. So in terms of just having to develop an RFP, I think there is something that's available for folks. I don't have it handy, but if anybody wanted to reach out afterwards, I could probably find what it is that people are using. Of course, there's still time to like look through it and to respond to folks' proposals, but at least the development of the RFP seems to have a lot of help available. In terms of relationships with CCA administrators, we've seen some community solar companies that do work in partnership with CCAs. It's not something that Solstice has done before. It's something that we're interested in, but it's not really like top of mind for us. We really appreciate the opt-in nature of community solar, and there's all sorts of reasons it can get confused when you start to bundle this CCA with community solar.
Once a local government starts working with Solstice, how do they raise awareness in the community?
Sure, it happens a number of ways. I think first and foremost, it starts with a discussion with said municipality in understanding how you currently communicate with your constituent base. We have the ability to really leverage both physical and digital touch points. So again, we have a full marketing team that can help create collateral as well as the messaging that can allow you to put a post on your website or your Facebook page, just as easily send out through a mail serve. Similarly, you know, we've helped coordinate direct mail campaigns that can go out to all residents in a county or a town. We also have utilized physical events and touch points as well, whether that's tabling in, you know, a town center, running events. It really depends on, again, sort of your needs and, you know, what you think fits best for your constituents and communities. And we can really mold to that. We certainly have a boiler template of, you know, here are the 5 actions we typically know lead to success and what we'd like to include, but we're more than happy to kind of customize, tailor, and fit the needs of each and every county.
One of our attendees would like to know if you're open to working in the Mohawk Valley, specifically with Otsego County in the NYSEG region.
Very interested in that. We've actually already worked very closely with OCCA and Leslie Orzetti over there. Not sure who's on the line asking that question, but familiar with the Mohawk Valley. We've worked on two or three solar farms in the NYSEG Mohawk Valley area. Would be very interested to have a conversation about that and make sure that we're looking at our NYSEG solar farm portfolio for 2021. That would be the one thing that we would need to line up and make sure, again, when we come in and when we want to start enrolling people is when we have an exact farm that folks can enroll in. So we'd want to make sure we have that lined up for when we'd launch a campaign.
If another locality was interested in knowing if you have service in their area, how would they go about finding that out?
So I think the easiest way, and I can actually, we'll maybe send over a link to this that's special for folks who came from this event, is we do have a very easy little form you fill out on our website, type in your name, put in your zip code and what utility you have, and it would immediately send you an email of either this is where, you know, we have a solar farm available, someone will reach out, or it would say that we're coming to you soon. So we can make sure that link gets to you. I think it would be from like, it's through solstice.us, but we would have a special link to make sure that it's focused on towns and counties.
Thank you. We will post all of these materials, including the webinar recording and a PDF of the slide deck on our webinar after the session has concluded. One more question before we wrap things up. You've talked about how residents can sign up to receive community solar through Solstice. Can a local government sign up to receive their energy through Solstice?
Yeah, so most municipal buildings are eligible. Community solar is interesting in that it is intended to target mostly residential customers, but there are some commercial folks who are eligible. In general, town halls, town courts, smaller buildings for a town would be eligible, and so most municipalities would be able to get some of the same benefits that their residents would. We would just have to take a little double check at the utility number, but for the most part, municipalities can get the same benefits.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Taro and Alex, and thank you to everybody who attended this webinar. You can find Taro and Alex's contact information on the screen, and again, it will be posted to our website at nisac.org/webinars. We hope that you're able to join us for our next webinar, which will be this Thursday at 10 a.m. About the NISAC procurement card. Again, any questions can be sent to me, Alex Lamont at NISAC. My email is alamont@nisac.org, or you can reach out to Taro and Alex directly. Thank you very much for attending. Take care.